The little godling ran. For the first time ever, his first main appointment to the gods, and he was going to be late. As he ran and ran and ran and made his way all the way up the stairs to the main hall, they hadn't started. He would be just in time. As he sneaked past, as you do when you're late, slowly trying to avoid anybody's gaze, he found his seat and sat down. Just then, the gong rang. Lord Brahma, the Lord of the gods, sat down. Everybody was seated. Tell me, gentlemen, what of the seedlings that we left on that planet? The seedlings, my lord said, one of the reports. The seedlings now are grasses that cover the whole of the land. There are flowers of every colour. There are plants of every description, from the low grasses to the tall trees that are dwarfed only by the mountains. And Brahma was pleased. They had worked well together, these gods. And what of those fledgling waters that we put there? From those streams, my lord, from high in the mountains, now rush down and they change into rivers. And from those rivers we have got lakes and seas and oceans, my lord, that cover 3/4 of that world. Amazing, said Brahma. You have done so well, my gods, well done. And what of the animals? The animals, my lord, they will amaze you still. Even further, there are the tiniest of creatures that you can just about see with the naked eye, to the ones that shake the ground as they walk past you. Great and awesome they are. Brahma could not be more pleased. All the gods had worked together and this project was finally coming together. And what of this creature called man? I've heard lots about this man. Man, Kamini, the god of desire, rose. Oh man, a passionate creature, my lord. You should see what he's done. Every time the sun god Surya beats down upon him, they knit the leaves together and form shade for themselves. Genius! Ingenious they are, my lord. They'll be the one to watch. That's nothing. When Indra causes the floods and rains, they will dig ditches to divert the water away. They are a truly amazing animal. And Brahma thought, well, maybe more can be done with this man. My lord, it was Sheshnag that rose. He has discovered fire. Fire! Already! In such a short space of time. Well, soon he'll be rivaling us. Well, don't be too amazed. It was Lord Shiva as he rose and the snake riled about his neck. Don't be too amazed. Me and Parvati, we went to holiday there. 2 weeks they promised of sunshine, peace and quiet. And all we heard was... I wasn't impressed. I asked for a refund and we came straight back. But then what can we do with him? Such promise, but yet so primitive. Give him voice, said one of the godlings. It was our godling who just fetched the report. Voice? Voice? Don't be a fool. If you give him voice, you can imagine every time it rains too much, oh, you gods, blast you. Every time it's too hot, oh, I don't want to live here, it's too hot. If it's too cold, oh, I don't want to live here, it's too cold. There'll be no pleasing him. No, we can't give him voice. But we must. Imagine how powerful we will become when he prays to us, when he thanks us. And think of the warm, glowy feeling we'll get when we do things for him. But the argument went backwards and forwards, until it was starting to become a little bit heated. And when gods get a little bit heated, energies tend to fly across the hall. And this was when Sheshnag got up and said, then let me go. Let me go and see what must be done with this creature man.
Hello, my name is Hardish Kaur. I've come to listen to the storytelling for the very first time in my life. It's called the Turban Myths. And it's been performed at the Tara Arts, which is a local theatre for me. I live just 5 minutes down the road. So far we've been told about three to four stories, and they're brilliant, absolutely, and I've really enjoyed it.
There was a businessman many years ago, and he had everything that you could wish for. He had money, he had enough money to sort of secure the future of his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, generations to come. He had a name that was respected, and he had a family that loved him dearly. But there was one thing that he didn't have. I'm going to ask you guys now, what do you think that one thing was that was missing from his life? What can you have when you've got everything but something is still missing? Any ideas?
Love.
Love, good one. He had love, that's a great answer.
Health.
Health. He had health as well, but this is sort of connected to health, as you'll see in a
Peace of
second.
mind.
Peace of mind is a very good one as well. It was sort of connected to peace of mind as
Faith.
well.
Faith.
Faith. Faith's a great answer. Happiness, these are all brilliant answers. I'll tell you the one thing that was missing. Everything was certain in his life. He shares his acquisitions, the future of his children, and the future of their children and their children. The one thing that was missing was he did not know when was going to be the time of his death. He knew everything else, and he didn't like being uncertain. So he consulted many holy men and many wise men, and finally they said to him, so go up into the mountains, and there's a particular cave, and if you go into that particular cave, close your eyes and meditate, and maybe Yama, the god of death, will come and give you the answer that you seek. So what he did was he put business managers all in charge of all his different affairs, and he made his way up into this cave, and he closed his eyes. And he started just repeating the name, Yama, 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 Yama. And I don't know if it was minutes, or if it was hours, or if it was weeks, or if it was years. Because all time just seemed to go topsy-turvy, and a second could have been a lifetime. But eventually when he opened his eyes, well there, to his shock and his surprise, stood Yama, the god of death. Any of you guys know of Yama, god of death? Well, Yama, the god of death, half of his face is in perpetual light, and half of it is in perpetual shadow. In one hand he has the mace, in the other hand he has the noose, which is called the noose of fate, which he wraps around your neck, or one of his messages wraps around your neck and extracts the soul, where then it is judged to whether you're going to go upstairs or downstairs. And Yama says, he says, you've been calling my name. He says, I don't normally appear in front of people, but you're so devout and you've been doing this for such a long time. He says, tell me, he says, what is it that you want? Why have you summoned me? And the businessman looked at him and he says, well, there's only one thing, he says, my lord, he says, I want to know the exact time of my death. He says, you want to know the time of your death? He says, yes. He says, please, that's all I want to know, just that one answer. He says, everything else is certain. Everything else is fixed in my life except that one thing. He said, you know, it's not a good idea always to know everything. He says, but this one thing, please. He says, I'll give money to the poor, I'll erect a temple in your name. He says, anything. And you can see the desperation in his eyes, and you can see the sort of honesty and the compassion in his eyes. He says, very well. He says, I'm going to send you some messages. I'm going to send you 3 messages. Watch out for them. And you'll know that I'm on my way. And with that, he just sort of vaporized. Now the businessman, he ran home, and all the way that he ran home, and his family saw him, they didn't recognise him. His beard was so long, his nails were long and dirty, and he was grubby, and after he cleaned himself and shaved, well, he felt a strangeness come over him because he felt invincible. He felt like a god. How many people on earth will know the exact time of their demise? Not many, I don't think. And he felt equal to those gods, some of the gods that God has mentioned, Sheshnag and Shiva and Brahma, and he thought fantastic, and because he felt invincible, he started acting a bit strange, because he thought, if I'm a god, I need a goddess, and maybe a different goddess every night. And that's what happened. He started, where he'd never done this before, he started seeing different women, and well, you can imagine yourself, you're all adults, the impact that would have had on his relationship with his wife and his own children. And for 10 years, that's what he did. He enjoyed the flesh as best as he could, but every day, vigilantly, he would check the post to see if a message had come from Yama. And in those days, I don't know if you know, but the barber used to be like the village sort of Google. The barber knew everything that was going on. Whenever there was a wedding, the barber would go and distribute the wedding cards, and he was like the font of all knowledge. And every day he'd say, Barber, he says, any messages for me? He said, no, he said, I told you, as soon as one comes, I come straight to you. Very well, 10 years passed. 10 years passed, and he lived it up in such passion and such joy. Well, the next phase, the next 10 years after that, he started doing something that businessmen will never do. He started gambling. Because everybody knows gambling is a fool's game. It's the odds are always in the favour of the house. And any businessman will know that. But for 10 years he squandered and he wasted so much, not of his own money, but of his children's inheritance as well. And oh, everybody's saying, what's happened to him? He's gone insane. But still he didn't care because he felt like a god. And the message hadn't come because he checked with the barber and he checked with the post office and he checked his letterbox every single day.
Hi, I'm Peter Chand.
And I'm Gog Chand.
And we're British Punjabi storytellers. There's only a handful of British Punjabi storytellers working in Britain today at the moment. And we're here at Tara Arts. Why are we here? We're here telling stories, a piece called Turban Myths, which is a collection of Indian stories, both from Indian folklore and also from the Ramayana as well. And Gog, tell us a bit about the stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
Well, these were the stories that I was told by my parents, my grandparents. It's what they used to tell us before TV and everything like that. We used to all sit together in the good old days when I used to get told stories and sit on my grandfather's and my dad's knee, and these are the ones that we remember, and some of the ones that we've had to rework ourselves because even our parents couldn't remember. So yeah, and we also travel, and I know Pete's done a lot of travel in India as well, which he'll tell you about now.
Excellent, yeah. So we share our stories. We're keeping a connection with our culture. We do a lot of translations from Punjabi, our first language, into English, and share these stories. And it's nice because sometimes you go into areas where it's completely Asian, sort of a high percentage of Asian population, so it's good for them to reconnect. And then sometimes you will go into areas where it's not, it's quite monocultural, but it's also good for those communities to get an insight into different cultures through storytelling as well. And we firmly both believe it's good fun, it's great entertainment, but it's also the best way and the most instant way to connect people together is through storytelling. It's the most instantaneous way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the clearest and simplest way.
With a young couple. And even if you couldn't hear, if you were out of earshot, even if you couldn't understand the language that they were speaking, it was 120 million% obvious that they were madly in love with each other. It's the way they were stroking each other's cheeks and the way that they were looking into each other's dark eyes and almost swimming in those dark puddles. They were blissfully happy, and the reason why they were blissfully happy is because they'd been married for 7 days. And it was what we call a love marriage, which is the exact opposite of an arranged marriage. Parents had no involvement in it, two people found each other, fell in love and got married. Simple. But after 7 days of this bliss, well, that poor girl had to go and meet her mother-in-law for the first time. And if any of you have had to do this, you know it's scary at the best of times. But when the mothers had no involvement in the marriage, it's even more scarier. And when the door was swung open, well, the mother-in-law, she never even said anything. She looked the girl up and down. I don't know if this is true or not, but they said the temperature felt like it dropped by 1.5 degrees. She summoned them in. The young couple went in. Now, normally the tradition is, or most of you probably know, is when you have the mehndi on your hand, the henna on your hand, you're not supposed to do any housework until it fades naturally. But not in this house, because the mother-in-law set her to work. And whenever the girl was doing her chores, whether she was running in the atta, the dough for the roti, or whether she was sweeping, she always felt that, you know, when you get the feeling that you're being watched. And then she'd look, but she'd just see like a little flash of something, and she thought, I must be imagining it. You know, it's this tiredness, doing all this chores and not getting enough sleep. But several weeks passed, and by now it well and truly faded the henna from her hands. And one day she was there washing her husband's shirt. She had that feeling again, and she looked. The mother-in-law was there, and she sort of looked. She didn't say anything, but it was the look that said 1,000 words. She went, and off she went. And the next day when she was washing her husband's shirt again, she came again. And she looked and she was asked, are you all right? And she was, oh, I see that you're washing the collars first. It's just that, you know, in our house we tend to wash the cuffs first. But, you know, I suppose if your mother taught you that way, the wrong way, then that's the way you're going to do it, isn't it, really? It's not your fault, I suppose. She was, I can do it the other way. It's not a problem, honestly, I can do it another way. She was, well, you know, if that's how your mother taught you, that's fine. And off she went. And the poor daughter, she was confused and frantic, so she thought, yeah, I'll do it, I'll keep her happy. And several days passed, and then several days later she was there and she was sweeping the yard. And as she was sweeping the yard, the mother-in-law came again, and she looked and she said, child, she says, what did I tell you when you first got here? Have you forgotten already? Have you got a brain or have you got a sieve? I said to you that the angle of the brush has to be the same as the angle of the branch on that people tree. And she was, yeah, but Sasuji, she says, it keeps on moving in the wind. She goes, that's not my fault, stupid girl. Did your mother not teach you anything? And off she went, and the poor girl was trying to get the same angle, but of course he kept on moving in the wind. It was getting sillier and sillier, and every night she cried herself to sleep, but you know, not once did she tell her husband, because she didn't want grief between her husband and his own mother. We all have a breaking point. We all have a breaking point. And breaking point came one afternoon as she was there making a lentil dal. And the mother-in-law came in and she could hear her cutting before she even entered the kitchen. She goes, "You stupid wretch, did I not tell you? She was in our house, we don't stir the curry anti-clockwise, we stir it clockwise. Stupid, stupid wretch." She goes, "That's what you, I'll do it the other way, I'm sorry, I just forgot." Because you know what it's like, when you're being watched you make more mistakes. The more mistakes, the more you get watched, and it's a vicious circle. And that afternoon, there and then, she decided that that's it, she'd had enough. So she took a shawl and she threw it around her shoulders, and she made her way to the forest to see the wise old woman. And she said to the wise old woman, she said, "This is the life that I'm leading. It's a terrible life." She says, "I need my mother-in-law to go." And she told her story, and the woman just listened, the wise old woman. After she'd finished her story, she says, "Very well." And she went to a shelf and she took this bottle, which contained a golden coloured liquid. And she said, "You see this liquid? This is massage oil. And you've got to massage this into your old woman's bones. You've got to massage this oil into the old woman's skin. And you know, when the oil has gone, your problem will also be gone." And the young bride gave her 10 rupees and off she went. Now, as soon as she got back to the house, "Sasaji, malice, Jedi." She was, "Of course I do." And quicker than you could say, "Yes, please." And the top was over her. She was, "Yeah." Now, if you've ever had a warm oil massage, you know it's just manners, it's just etiquette to warm it between your hands. That's just polite. Everybody knows that. You learn that when you're a kid. But not in this case. Because all those months of being called stupid, all those months of, "Didn't your mother teach you anything, you stupid wretch?" It came out in that massage, because I tell you what, she pulled up her sleeves, she got that oil and she slapped it onto the old woman's back. And she started crunching and she started pummeling that flesh, and I tell you what, it was soon bright red and the bones were going click, clack, crook, crook, crook. And she was kneading it and kneading it, like she was kneading that atta for the roti, and getting it and getting it and getting it there. And she was cracking and cracking. And when she finished after half an hour, the sweat was pouring off her, her eyes sparkled as a bit of the oil had gone down in the bottle.
Hi, I'm Gabriella. I work near here, so I come past Tara Arts every day, and I saw this was on. I'd never been to a storytelling session before, so I thought I'd try it out, and I really enjoyed it. They tell stories brilliantly, they really take you in, and it was a really enjoyable evening because it was very evocative and it made me think, so I would really recommend coming to a storytelling session.